All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm on the phone from my home on the internet, which is where we all live because we're in a horrible dystopian future. But it's always nice to talk to someone who's new to the show. I've been doing this podcast for over 8 years now, and I do have a lot of repeating guests. But when Manitoba's music scene is so broad and so diverse that it's cool that I can be doing this as long as I have and barely scratch the surface of what's going on in the province as far as music is concerned. So I think the best way to start this off is if you want to maybe introduce yourself and maybe give a bit of background about where you're coming from musically, and we can take it from there.
Sure. So my name is Kayla Luky, and I live in a small community called Grandview, which is about 4 hours northwest of Winnipeg. I've been playing music since I guess I was about 14 when I picked up a guitar and I taught myself how to play a few chords. And, the angsty teen songwriting came pretty naturally after
Yeah.
that. And I started playing shows by opening for metal and hardcore bands back when that was a thing, I guess in the early 2000s. And I was always a singer songwriter type. I didn't play punk music per se, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think in some ways it was similar in the angst and the three chords and the truth sort of thing, which is I think pretty standard for any great songwriting, whether that's punk or country or folk or whatever genre it is. Um, so since then, I've released quite a few albums and played a lot of shows across Canada and different conferences and whatnot. And so I would like to think my songwriting has gotten better than when I was 14.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
I like that background of playing at the metal shows and the hardcore shows because back in the late '90s I was in punk bands and stuff, and we always had at almost every show there'd be a folk singer or a singer songwriter or someone doing something stripped down and acoustic that didn't seem like it fit, but like you said, it's the same, coming from the same place, right? The three chords and the truth, and having something to complain about or something to
Yeah,
to voice, right? Like, grievances to voice, and then I think folk music works as well as punk rock does, maybe even better in some cases to do that.
yeah, it was always a welcoming environment because I guess we all felt to some degree like we were misfits, and it was
Yeah.
nice to be able to share that together, I guess. And it was really like thinking back to it, it was quite heartwarming that it was a safe place for kids to hang out, without doing drugs or
Yeah.
alcohol. And yeah, people just don't really have that anymore, especially with COVID. But
Yeah,
even
that changes everything, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, one of the things that I found, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's very easy for me and for other people doing things like this to just focus solely on Winnipeg because there is so much happening in the city. But every time I have someone on the show who's from outside of the city, I'm always reminded of how much great music there is just on the periphery and even further out in Manitoba that I think kind of gets overlooked by us and Winnipeggers who are very in this tight knit, incestuous little scene. So, what has your experience been? I guess living outside the city, and then I'm sure you play a lot of shows in Winnipeg as just part of your regular career as a musician, right? What's your experience been sort of coming into this scene?
um, well, it's interesting playing music anywhere really when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Manitoba," and they're like, "Oh, so you're from Winnipeg?" And I say, "No, there's more to Manitoba than Winnipeg," and I even had made some bumper stickers that
I
says
saw those.
from Winnipeg. It's more of a joke, but um, I play with a lot of people from Winnipeg, and I've made lots of good friends who are musicians in Winnipeg, and so I still kind of feel like I'm part of that scene um, because when we were playing more
Yeah,
previously, uh, the people I played with obviously played with a lot of other people, so um, it was kind of nice. It's nice to not have to live in the city because I'm not a concrete person.
yeah.
I lived in the city for a couple of years out of high school, and it just wasn't for me. So it's a nice place to visit, and it's nice to go to. Well, when we could go to shows, it was nice to go and catch up with people and see old friends, but
Yeah.
go back to the fresh air.
Yeah. Does your location, does that affect your songwriting? Like where you are in the world? Does that change sort of the tone of it or the attitude of it?
I think so. I grew up on a grain farm, kind of in the middle of nowhere outside of Gilbert Plains.
Okay.
Um, and so I think that the landscapes have definitely influenced that. And the lack of connectivity, obviously in the early 90s and um, or growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, there wasn't internet to begin with.
Yeah.
And then um, and I think having not having that connectivity gave a lot of creativity. And I think even now, not being in that scene, I'm not really influenced by what's going on because I'm just not connected to what's going on, which I think is kind of a blessing in some ways.
Yeah. Well, is there a bit of freedom, I guess, to that, to not having to be concerned with the day to day hustle and bustle of the Winnipeg music scene, right?
Yeah, or just the music scene in general. And I think COVID in particular, like I've music has taken a backseat in the last few years because I have a couple kids, and that just changes.
Yep.
And now with COVID hitting, I just think I kind of just thank goodness that that wasn't my only path, because I just really feel for the people who have music as their sole income because they're
Yeah.
just having such a hard time. I just feel for them.
Yeah. I've had a few people on like that over well, the past year, I guess. And yeah, it's tough because they spent so much time and energy making this their one job, and they're living the dream basically, right, of being able to be a professional full-time musician, and then this happens. What has your experience with COVID been as far as creativity? Because I've had some people on the show who have talked about, just being blocked and being completely unable to write while they're dealing with this pandemic, and others have been just nonstop writing and recording and taking advantage of the I guess having less responsibility outside of their own head, and using it for to be excessively creative. What have you found?
I guess for me, because music had taken a backseat earlier, it didn't really affect me much.
Okay.
I still wrote, or I'm still writing whenever it comes to me, but um, I have a 2-year old and a 4-year old. So even pre COVID, I wasn't really willing to do what was required to make music a full time thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that kind of alleviates a lot of stress because I'm just like, well, I didn't feel the pressure to like continually put out product um, as far as music goes. So yeah, COVID in that sense hasn't really
No,
affected me.
that's good. At least it hasn't changed things too much, right? What is your sort of plan going forward then? Because I mean, like you said, music has taken a bit of a backseat, and you're not constantly releasing material. Are you planning on just sort of putting out music when the music kind of makes itself available to you, like once you have the ideas and have the songs, just to go about it on a piecemeal basis, or what are you hoping to do?
Yeah, I feel like with my last project, which was Back to Dirt, I had decided to go kind of all in back in, it was 2015 already.
Okay.
And we recorded the whole album, and I was going to tour extensively and I was going to give it my all. And then we finished recording, and I found out I was pregnant. So that kind of changed how I was going to
Sure.
go doing that. And I guess in a lot of ways, that album didn't do what I thought it could have done. And I'm still not even sure what that is.
It's a really good
But
album. I mean, like, I have a copy of it. It's great. Yeah.
thanks. Um, but it didn't do for me what I thought it could have done. And I felt I did the best I could with the resources I had and the new situation I was in.
Yeah.
And so even today, I have this new batch of songs that I demoed a few months ago, and I'm talking with my band about rehearsing them and recording something again. And I'm just in a place where it's like, even since 20, so I guess I ended up releasing Back to Dirt in 2017. But even since then, the music scene has changed so much in the sense of, even then, putting out an album was kind of not pointless, but people don't really put out albums anymore.
The way they
People,
consume music is different, right? People are so into the streaming thing and the singles versus album for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess part of me is kind of old school in the sense of like I love listening to an album and getting taken on like an emotional journey with that um, band or person. And so today I was just thinking, I'm like, what is the point of recording another album? Like, what am I doing here? What is my goal? Do I have a goal? Or maybe I'm just at the point where it's making art for art's sake instead of, filling or having like number goals to
Yeah.
apply to MFM with and Canada Council and blah, blah, blah. And there's also freedom in that too.
I imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Just not having to worry about that stuff, right?
Yeah. So anyways, to answer your question, I guess, is yes, I have a whole batch of songs on the back burner. And yeah, I want to record them in some way and release them. But part of that too that I've been struggling with is because everything is so visual now, is what do I do, or do I do anything to accompany that music
Okay.
visually, like even if it's like when you go on Spotify or whatever and there's like little reels that play to each song. And
Okay.
um yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's totally different even than it was like you said 2017 or that doesn't seem like that long ago, but things have changed dramatically.
Yeah, and especially not being able to tour, and I don't see that as an option for anybody really
Yeah.
anytime soon. It's like that's what I really enjoy with music. I love touring. I love playing live. It captures, it really makes you live in the moment because you have just this one fraction of time and either you get it or you don't.
Yeah.
And it feels good or else you learn from it. And I love living out of a suitcase. So
Do you try to capture that feeling on your records? I mean, because listening to an album in your basement with headphones on is very different than seeing an artist performing on stage, right? Are there different? Do you use a different part of your brain for recording than you would for doing a live show?
I don't think so. I think what because say even with Back to Dirt and the album before that, The Time It Takes, and the album before that, Kayla and Ben, and the album before that, which I do not sell because I'm embarrassed of it.
Really?
But yeah, I think I have 6 albums, and the first 3 are like I don't let people listen to those. But anyways, a lot of it is live. So even with Back to Dirt, it was important to me that even though I played the guitar separately because it was a more produced album,
Yeah.
it was important to me to not be splicing stuff all the time. It was important to me to get the vocals, not be splicing all the time. In the album, The Time It Takes, some of the songs were recorded live with me and my guitar. And that's just important to me. I don't know why that's important to me. I just think it makes you a better player, better vocalist. So I really try to get into that to get a good take when I record or when I'm playing live.
Okay. How different are the songs? I guess because I'm assuming you write the songs probably on guitar, on your own. How different are they from when they're first conceived to the final version when you have the band playing on it? Does it become a different song for you, or is the kind of the I mean, the feeling of it, is that still there from the start to the finished product? Because I can imagine that some of these songs would sound very different that stripped down than they do with the full band there.
I guess for me in my head, no, I would say the feeling has always stayed the same. And I feel like the people that I play with always respect the song and are so tasteful in what they do, that we're always kind of on the same wavelength.
Okay. That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. What just in listening to your stuff, I mean, there's a lot of downer songs, which is kind of, I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's a lot of them are a little depressing, and a lot of them are very drunken, might be the word to it. What is the kind of you seem like a very pleasant, upbeat person. How do you go from this right now, where you're having to having that kind of I don't want to say misery because they're not that that depressing, but there's definitely some sad stuff that you're writing about, and a lot of it sounds like songs written after waking up from a bender, you know, and something really horrible has gone on, and I mean that in the most positive way possible.
Oh no, I totally understand. I always laugh and I'm like, I'm really not that sad of a person. But I guess like anyone who um, is creative, I have my moments of being down. Um, and I've probably drank too much on many occasions.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess, yeah, I guess that comes from, yeah, I guess growing pains
Yeah.
of
Okay.
being a teenager in 20s and 30s. And um, what was your question again?
Well, I guess maybe a better way of wording the question is that, like, I think that you know, folk music, country music, all of these genres that you sort of encompass with your sound are one of the hallmarks of those genres is people appreciate honesty, they appreciate genuine songwriting, they appreciate something that comes across as being, this is the person's true experience, right? And so I mean, you have all these downer songs and all these drinking songs, and like, so I'm just wondering, like, how do you portray that genuine level of sadness and of sorrow in some of these songs
Right. I
on a regular basis, right? I mean, you're playing these songs every night on stage, and you have to. How do you get to that kind of sad place to portray that in a way that comes across as very real and true?
Yeah, I guess, well, genuinely inside of me, I have that sadness. um, and in some of the songs, I would say, kind of in the same way that when I'm playing live or when I'm recording, I go to that place, or it's almost like I have a movie that plays in my head when I sing those songs. Um, and ultimately, yeah, I want to connect with people, and I want them to feel something, or have those songs speak to them, whether it's my own songs or sometimes when we cover songs. um, yeah, it's important to me that in any kind of creativity or art, like for me, it's like I just want to feel something,
Yeah,
like make me cry, or like make me happy, or take me to that place. And I think that's the power of good music.
yeah, I think you're right for sure. Because yeah, if there's no emotion to it, it can be something that maybe you want to dance to for 5 minutes, but then after that, it's out of your head and gone, right? And I guess it really is any kind of music. The songs that stick the most are the ones that do pull on some kind of emotional string.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know the pandemic's going on. I know that you said music's taken a bit of a backseat lately. What are sort of your plans once, if the pandemic ends anytime soon? Like, do you have an idea of what you'd like to do with your music, assuming things cleared up, let's say just next week, hypothetically?
Yeah, well, right now I'm in the process of back in November, I recorded a handful of demos um, live,
Okay.
because again, that's important to me. And then with the band, we're planning to do some pre-production. I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to say, but we're planning to do some pre-production, and then I would like to record the album, or record an album. I've also considered doing, um, because I think the way that the songs are, some could be more folky, some could be more in the throwback to 70s country esque, like some of the songs are on Back to Dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and playing around with maybe doing a whole bunch of EPs in different veins,
Oh,
or
cool.
different genres. Um, and again, I would love to tour. And I don't think it's off of. I don't think it's not an option. It's just a lot more to juggle. Like when I went on tour with Back to Dirt, I had my son, and so I had this 5-month-old,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and my partner who would look after him while we were playing, and then my band of 4 guys. And in retrospect, like that was too much. Like I couldn't. I don't think I would want to, for my own well-being, again, be like the tour manager and the tour booker and the
Yeah.
promoter, and then the lead person, and then the driver, and then a mother.
Yeah.
And it was by the end of that, I was completely burnt out, and that was just not good for me. So
Yeah,
I would love to do that again, but I can't do it all myself, or I shouldn't do it all myself.
probably not. No, no, my kids are older than that, and I can't imagine even taking them somewhere on tour. And yeah, so it's that's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, it was, but still a good time. I don't regret it.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes I look back on that, I'm like, that was really crazy. But I had, at that point, I had invested so much in that album that I was like, I am not just packing it up. I have to
yeah.
at least try, do what I can. So, so yeah, that would be fun. Even if it was like little, like a few days at a time, going out from Manitoba to, Saskatchewan, Alberta,
Yeah.
and whatever that might be. And yeah, again, there's also the video aspect of it. So I don't know if that would be a documentary or just like background stuff of us recording or out where I live or,
Yeah.
talking about the songs. I guess if I have a fan base that wants something in particular, I'd be more inclined to do something. Um, but I'm always a little self-conscious of it seeming too self-absorbed. I don't want to come off that way.
Right.
So,
Well, where can people find your stuff now? Because I mean, like we've said, the pandemic's in full swing right now. You can't shows aren't happening. What's the best way for someone to pick up a copy of one of your records? The ones that you are showing to people if they want to
yeah,
buy one. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess ultimately they could just go online on Bandcamp. I think I have a link to it on my website.
I'll throw a
Um,
link in the show notes for the podcast too.
sure, yeah. Or on Spotify, iTunes, all of that sort of thing. You can find the last couple albums I've done.
Okay.
Uh, and one of the albums that's available is only on Bandcamp, and it's free. You can just download it
Cool.
or stream it.
Cool. Well, I kind of want to try and track down your previous ones now. Now that you
Well,
mentioned that they're kind of like removed from circulation, but I'm glad people can still get the other ones that are, that
yeah,
are available.
I have a whole bunch of them in my basement,
Yeah.
and there's one album I did. Um, it was before the time it takes, so I think I released it in I want to say 2008, and I did it all live. I think there's like 14 tracks, and one of the tracks made it onto. So this is like a funny story. This girl that I went to school with, she used to listen to my music in high school, so that's how she has all these like this back catalog that I don't let
Yeah.
people listen to anymore. She showed it to someone where she was traveling in Germany or something like that. He liked some of the songs, so he has this video on YouTube that has, I think it has, I haven't even checked, it has like thousands and thousands of views. But probably once a month or every couple months, I'll get random messages of people being like, I saw that you're the songwriter of this song and I really want this song, and where can I can't find it anywhere, and I'm just like, sorry, I'm not released. I can't. I just can't. But it's maybe for those people I should make it available, or maybe I should re-record it. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm curious to hear it, but I will respect that you don't want those to be heard, and I'll keep listening to the ones that you have out now. And then, because this is a podcast, someone could be hearing it when it comes out soon, or they could hear it a year from now. What's the best way to find out what you're up to as far as potential shows when things change? Where can people go to find all that info?
KaylaLuky.ca. I also have Instagram and Facebook. Um, and I'm sure I'm on other things too, but I would say those are the primary ones. I don't really use social media a lot. I kind of like being left in the dark. Um, so yeah, I would say KaylaLuky.ca.
Cool.